name is Amanda Vikramdas, and we're going to continue reading Srimad Bhagavatam like we do every Monday and Tuesday on our live and our Facebook and YouTube channel from 6 to 7. We're gonna finish a little bit before 7. So without further ado, we start the prayers of glorification of Srimad Bhagavatam from Mahima Stotra of Sanatan Goswami. Sarva Shastrabdi Piyusha, Sarva Vedaika Satpala, Sarva Siddhantna Ratnadya, Sarva Lokaika Drikprada. O nectar from the ocean of all scriptures, singular fruit of all the Vedas, rich mine of the precious gems of all conclusive truths, you are the only giver of sight to all of the worlds. Sarva Bhagavata Prana, Shrimad Bhagavata Prabhu, Kalidvanto Dita, Ditya Shri Krishna Parivartita. O life air of all the Supreme Lord's devotees, O Master Srimad Bhagavatam, you are the sun risen in the darkness of Kali, you are the exact image of Shri Krishna. Paramananda Patnaya Prema Vakshaksharayate Sarvada Sarvasivyaya Shri Krishna Namostume. I bow down to you who are supremely blissful to read. Your every syllable pours down a flood of prema. You can always be served by everyone. You are Shri Krishna himself. Madhika Bandha Matsangin Mad Guru Mat Mahadana Mad Nishtaraka Mad Bhagya Madananda Namostote. My only friend, my constant companion, my spiritual master, my great wealth, my savior, my good fortune, my source of ecstasy, I bow down to you. Asadu sadutadain atini chochatarakam hanamuncha kadachinmam premna hrit kantayospura. O bestower of saintliness to the unsaintly, O exalter of the most fallen, please never leave me. Always appear in my heart and my voice with pure love. Narayanam namaskritya naram chaivam narotanam devin saraswatim vyasam tato jayamudirayet. Before reciting this Srimad Bhagavatam, which is the very means of conquest, one should offer respectful obeisances unto the personality of Godhead, Narayana, unto Narayana Rishi, the supermost human being, unto Mother Saraswati, the goddess of learning, and unto Srila Vyasadeva, the author. Nashta prayesho badreshu nityam bhagavata sevaya bhagavat uttama shloke bhaktir bhavati nashtiki. By regular attendance in classes on the Bhagavatam, and by rendering of service to the pure devotee, all that is troublesome to the heart is almost completely destroyed, and loving service unto the personality of Godhead, who is praised with transcendental songs, is established as an irrevocable fact, or irrevocable fact. Okay, Hare Krishna, welcome everyone. Pranams. Welcome to today's reading of Srimad Bhagavatam. We do a reading for an hour on Mondays and Tuesdays. We just finished chapter 5 of the Canto 4, where Shiva's sent his demon he created to kill the miscreants, to kill the Daksha, and to torture other priests and other who were also in favor of letting his wife to do a suicide. Sati entered the fire, and no one stopped her. She came to plead. She came to that sacrifice that was going on, where her husband was mistreated because Daksha felt offended by Shiva didn't get up from his seat. He was meditating on the Lord, and he blasphemed him. He wasn't welcome there anymore. So Sati came to try to negotiate and get his reputation back on the proper level, on the right, to be re-established as it where it's supposed to be. because she was ignored and disrespected. She felt the body that came from Daksha, who made this offense, was useless, and she renounced her body. And we know that she appears, and she's the goddess of fortune. So she's eternal consort of Lord Shiva. So she comes as she will come after this life. She reincarnates as Parvati. So let's go on now to the next chapter, which is called the Brahma Satisfied Lord Shiva. So we'll hear what was going to happen here. But just I want to read you, before we start reading this text, I want to read you, I just received this new book that it's the retelling of Srimad Bhagavatam, which I really like, these different retellings. I have two of them already. One is from Sutapa Prabhu. One is from devotees from, where is it, from Pune or from Govardhaniko village. Another one is from Krishna Dharma and Chitamani Dharma Dasi. It just came today. It's called, the series is called Brilliant as the Sun, which is the, which they mean the Srimad Bhagavatam. Srimad Bhagavatam is compared to the sun, as brilliant as the sun. So this is Canto 4 in the retelling of famous Krishna Dharma who did Mahabharata, Ramayana, and I'm not sure if there's, but these two are the epic. So he used his very great way of this Prabhu that has great way of retelling the stories, and he and his wife are now doing the same. I think it's maybe a canto per year they do, or something like that. So I can just read a little bit, just to give you a taste of the way of their language, of their narrative they use. I find it very, very nice. So that's the same chapter, Brahma pacifies Shiva, and they go like this. The gods go to Kailash to appease the angry Shiva. It's after Shiva was very angry, sent his demons, his goblins and ghosts to desecrate the place. And so hysterical women cowered in groups, wailing inconsolably. Disheveled gods and Brahmins picked themselves up and stumbled about aimlessly. The arena was in a shambles. Daksha was dead, and several others severely injured. Those celestials, who had only suffered superficial wounds, huddled together to discuss what they should do. What if Shiva's men returned? They must somehow or other appease him. Indra suggested they seek Brahma's help. The bedraggled crew hurried to Satyaloka. Prostrating themselves before Brahma, they reported all that had happened. Brahma showed no surprise. Both Lord Vishnu and I anticipated this would occur. That is why neither of us attended the sacrifice. He shook his head reprovingly. My dear sons, you cannot be happy in executing a sacrifice if you blaspheme a great personality. Shiva was right to have Daksha killed. If he had lived, he would have further degraded himself by his offenses. Indeed, you are all offenders, since you have colluded in excluding Shiva from receiving his shares of their sacrificial results. Alright, just a taster. I'm going to go now to the our Srimad Bhagavatam, the full version of translation and purports by A.C. Bhaktivedanta Srila Prabhupada. So we start with text, double text 1 and 2. Translation. All the priests and other members of the sacrificial assembly and all the demigods, having been defeated by the soldiers of Lord Shiva and injured by weapons like tridents and swords, approached Lord Brahma with great fear. After offering him obeisances, they began to speak in detail of all the events which had taken place. Both Lord Brahma and Vishnu had already known that such events would occur in the sacrificial arena of Daksha, and knowing beforehand, they did not go to the sacrifice. Purport. As stated in Bhagavad Gita 7.26, Vedaham samatitani vartamanani charjanam. The Lord says, I know everything that has happened in the past and is going to happen in the future. Lord Vishnu is omniscient, and he therefore knew what would happen in Daksha's sacrificial arena. For this reason, neither Narayana nor Lord Brahma attended the great sacrifice performed by Daksha. When Lord Brahma heard everything from the demigods and the members who had attended the sacrifice, he replied, You cannot be happy in executing a sacrifice if you blaspheme a great personality and thereby offend his lotus feet. You cannot have happiness in that way. Purport. Lord Brahma explained to the demigods that although Daksha wanted to enjoy the results of fruitive sacrificial activities, it is not possible to enjoy when one offends a great personality like Lord Shiva. It was good for Daksha to have died in the fight, because if he had lived, he would have committed such offenses at the lotus feet of great personalities again and again. According to Manu's law, when a person commits murder, punishment is beneficial for him, because if he is not killed, he might commit more and more murders, and therefore be entangled in his future lives for having killed so many persons. Therefore, the king's punishment of a murderer is appropriate. If those who are extremely offensive are killed by the grace of the Lord, that is good for them. In other words, Lord Brahma explained to the demigods that it was good for Daksha to have been killed. You say deservingly. He deserved it. So text 5. You have excluded Lord Shiva from taking part in the sacrificial results, and therefore you are all offenders at his lotus feet. Still, if you go without mental reservations and surrender unto him and fall down at his lotus feet, he will be very pleased. Purport. Lord Shiva is also called Ashutosha. Ashu means very soon, and Tosha means to become satisfied. The demigods were advised to go to Lord Shiva and beg his pardon, and because he is very easily pleased, it was certain that their purpose would be served. Lord Brahma knew the mind of Lord Shiva very well, and he was confident that the demigods who were offenders at his lotus feet could mitigate their offenses by going to him and surrendering without reservation. Text 6. Lord Brahma also advised them that Lord Shiva is so powerful that by his anger all the planets and their chief controllers can be destroyed immediately. Also he said that Lord Shiva was especially sorry because he had recently lost his dear wife and was also very much afflicted by the unkind words of Daksha. Under the circumstances, Lord Brahma suggested it would behoove them to go at once and beg his pardon. 7. Lord Brahma said that no one, not even himself, Indra, all the members assembled in the sacrificial arena, or all the sages, could know how powerful Lord Shiva is. Under the circumstances, who would dare to commit an offense at his lotus feet? Purport. After Lord Brahma advised the demigods to go to Lord Shiva and beg his pardon, it was suggested how he should be satisfied and how the matter should be placed up before him. Brahma also asserted that none of the conditioned souls, including himself and all the demigods, could know how to satisfy Lord Shiva. But he said, It is known that he is very easily satisfied, so let us try to satisfy him by falling at his lotus feet. Actually, the position of the subordinate is always to surrender to the Supreme. That is the instruction of Bhagavad Gita. The Lord asks everyone to give up all kinds of concocted occupations and simply surrender unto him. That will protect the conditioned souls from all sinful reactions. Similarly, in this case, Brahma also suggested that they go and surrender unto the lotus feet of Lord Shiva, for since he is very kind and easily satisfied, this action would prove effective. Text 8. After thus instructing all the demigods, the Pitas, and the lords of the living entities, Lord Brahma took them with him and left for the abode of Lord Shiva, known as the Kailash hill. Purport: the abode of Lord Shiva, which is known as Kailash, is described in the 14 verses which follow. The abode known as Kailash is full of different herbs and vegetables, and it is sanctified by Vedic hymns and mystic yoga practice. Thus the residents of that abode are demigods by birth and have all mystic powers. Besides them, there are other human beings, who are known as Kinnaras and Gandharvas, and are accompanied by their beautiful wives, who are known as Apsaras, or angels. Kailash is full of mountains, filled with all kinds of valuable jewels and minerals, and surrounded by all varieties of valuable trees and plants. The top of the hill is nicely decorated by various types of deer. There are many waterfalls, and in the mountains there are many beautiful caves in which the very beautiful wives of the mystics are found. On Kailash hill there is always the rhythmical sound of the peacock's sweet vibrations and the bees humming. Cuckoos are always singing, and other birds whisper among themselves. There are tall trees with straight branches that appear to call the sweet birds, and when herds of elephants pass through the hills, it appears that the Kailash hill moves with them. When the waterfalls resound, it appears that Kailash hill does also. The whole of Kailash hill is decorated with various kinds of trees, of which the following names may be mentioned: Mandara, Parijata, Sarala, Tamala, Tala, Kovidara, Asana, Arjuna, Amrita Jati or mango, Kadamba, Duli Kadamba, Naga, Punaga, Champaka, Patala, Ashoka, Bakula, Kunda and Kurabaka. The entire hill is decorated with such trees which produce flowers with fragrant aromas. Actually, I heard because of the incense I hear there's a Parijata tree and Parijata smell. Of course, we know Amrita Jati, mango, Kadamba tree, it's very famous, and I also heard Champaka tree, Ashoka tree. We heard about Ashoka tree, and Bakula tree, and the rest I haven't heard. Arjuna tree, yes, okay, I heard about Arjuna trees. There's a story of two Arjuna trees where the baby Krishna was tied with a wooden grinding mortar. And out of these two Arjuna trees, these two beings came. This is the story for the upcoming month of Kartik. So we continue our description of Kailash. There are other trees also which decorate the hill, such as the golden lotus flower, the cinnamon tree, Malati, Kubja, Malika and Madhavi. 17. Kailash hill is also decorated with such trees as Kata, jackfruit, Julara, banyan trees, Plakshas, Nyagrodas, and trees producing asafoetida. Oh, asafoetida. Also, there are trees of betel nuts and burjapatra, as well as rajapuga, blackberries, and similar other trees. There are mango trees, Priyala, Manduka, and Inguda. Besides these, there are other trees like tin bamboos, Kichaka, and varieties of other bamboo trees, all decorating the tract of Kailash hill. It sounds like, with this description, very, very lush planet, a lush place called Kailash. There are different kinds of lotus flowers such as Kumuda, Utpala, and Shatapatra. The forest appears to be a decorated garden, and the small lakes are full of various kinds of birds who whisper very sweetly. There are many kinds of other animals also, like deer, monkeys, boars, lions, rikshas, shalyakas, forest cows, forest asses, tigers, small deer, buffalo, and many other animals who are fully enjoying their lives. There are varieties of deer such as Karnantra, Ekapada, Ashwasya, Vrika, and Kasturi, the deer which bears musk. Besides the deer, there are many banana trees which decorate the small hillside lakes very nicely. There is a small lake named Alakananda, in which Sati used to take her bath, and that lake is especially auspicious. All the demigods, after seeing the specific beauty of Kailash Hill, were struck with wonder at the great opulence to be found there. So there's the name. There's Alakananda is the name of the lake, and is also the name of Ganga, one of the branches of Ganga that flows on the top of this residence of Brahma, and then splits on four different directions. And one of the directions, I'm not sure which one is. This was actually this is actually in 5th canto, so it's upcoming. It's also named, so one of the Ganga parts of Ganga is called Alakananda, and in Mayapur, Navadvip, there's also Ganga, part of Ganga that's called Alakananda. So Janavid is one, and so on. There's the others which I can't remember. Purport. According to the commentary called Sri Bhagavata Chandra Chandrika, the water in which Sati used to bathe was Ganges water. In other words, the Ganges flowed through the Kailash Parvata. There is every possibility of accepting such a statement because Ganges water also flows from the hair of Lord Shiva. Since Ganges water rests on the head of Lord Shiva and then flows to the other parts of the universe, it is quite possible that the water in which Sati bathed, which was certainly very nicely scented, was Ganges water. Alright, just mentioned Ganges. There you go. So this Alakananda lake is definitely also by the using the name for both consists of Ganges. 23. Thus the demigods saw the wonderfully beautiful region known as Alaka in the forest known as Saugandhika, which means full of fragrance. The forest is known as Saugandhika because of its abundance of lotus flowers. Purport. Sometimes Alaka is known as Alakapuri, which is also the name of the abode of Kuvera. Kuvera's abode, however, cannot be seen from Kailash. Therefore, the region of Alaka referred to here is different from the Alakapuri of Kuvera. According to Viraragava Acharya, Alaka means uncommonly beautiful. In the region of Alaka that the demigod saw, there is a type of lotus flower known as Saugandhika that distributes an especially fragrant scent. They also saw the two rivers named Nanda and Alakananda. Oh, there we go. These two rivers are sanctified by the dust of the lotus feet of the Supreme Personality of Godhead, Govinda. My dear Kshata, Vidura, the celestial damsels come down to those rivers in their airplanes with their husbands, and after sexual enjoyment, they enter the water and enjoy sprinkling their husbands with the water. Purport. It is understood that even the damsels of the heavenly planets are polluted by thought of sex enjoyment, and therefore they come in airplanes to bathe in the rivers Nanda and Alakananda. It is significant that these rivers, Nanda and Alakananda, are sanctified by the dust of the lotus feet of the Supreme Personality of Godhead. In other words, just as the Ganges is sacred because its water emanates from the toes of the Supreme Personality of Godhead, Narayana, So, whenever water or anything is in touch with devotional service to the Supreme Personality of Godhead, it is purified and spiritualized. The rules and regulations of devotional service are based on this principle. Anything in touch with the lotus feet of the Lord is immediately freed from all material contamination. The damsels of the heavenly planets, polluted by thoughts of sex life, come down to bathe in the sanctified rivers and enjoy sprinkling water on their husbands. Two words are very significant in this connection. Rati karshitaha means that the damsels become morose after sex enjoyment. Although they accept sex enjoyment as a bodily demand, afterwards they are not happy. Another significant point is that Lord Govinda, the Supreme Personality of Godhead, is described here as Tirthapada. Tirtha means sanctified place, and Pada means the lotus feet of the Lord. People go to a sanctified place to free themselves from all sinful reactions. In other words, those who are devoted to the lotus feet of the Supreme Personality of Godhead, Krishna, automatically become sanctified. The Lord's lotus feet are called Tirthapada because under their protection there are hundreds and thousands of saintly persons who sanctify the sacred places of pilgrimage. Srila Narottam Das Thakur, a great acharya of the Gaudiya Vaishnava Sampradaya, advises us not to travel to different places of pilgrimage. Not to travel. Undoubtedly, it is troublesome to go from one place to another, but one who is intelligent can take shelter of the lotus feet of Govinda and thereby be automatically sanctified as the result of his pilgrimage. Anyone who is fixed in the service of the lotus feet of Govinda is called Tirthapada. He does not need to travel on various pilgrimages, for he can enjoy all the benefits of such travel simply by engaging in the service of the lotus feet of the Lord. Such a pure devotee, who has implicit faith in the lotus feet of the Lord, can create sacred places in any part of the world where he decides to remain. Tirti Kurvantir Tirtani. It's Bhagavatam 1.13.10. The places are sanctified due to the presence of pure devotees. Any place automatically becomes a place of pilgrimage if either the Lord or his pure devotee remains or resides there. In other words, such a pure devotee who is engaged 100% in the service of the Lord can remain anywhere in the universe, and that part of the universe immediately becomes a sacred place where he can peacefully render service to the Lord as the Lord desires. So one example of this would be for us, like the nearest one for the members of Iskcon, for the light, would be Bhaktivedanta Manor, where there's there's a room where Srila Prabhupada, the pure devotee of the Lord, resided, his bedroom, his paraphernalia, the deities that he installed, the Radha Gokulananda, and the soil that he walked, and so on and so on. And of course his legacy and through his disciples and grand disciples are there very much present. Text 26. After the damsels of the heavenly planets bathe in the water, it becomes yellowish and fragrant due to the kumkuma from their bodies. Thus the elephants come to bathe there with their wives, the she-elephants, and they also drink the water, although they are not thirsty. 27. The airplanes of the heavenly denizens are bedecked with pearls, gold, and many valuable jewels. The heavenly denizens are compared to clouds in the sky, decorated with occasional flashes of electric lightning. Purport. The airplanes described in this verse are different from the airplanes of which we have experience. In the Srimad Bhagavatam and all the Vedic literatures, there are many descriptions of Vimana, which means airplanes. On different planets, there are different kinds of airplanes. On this gross planet Earth, there are airplanes run by machine, but on other planets, the airplanes are run not by machine, but by mantric hymns. And they are also used specifically for enjoyment by the denizens of the heavenly planets, so that they can go from one planet to another. On other planets, which are called Siddhalokas, the denizens can travel from one planet to another without airplanes. The beautiful airplanes from the heavenly planets are compared here to the sky because they fly in the sky. The passengers are compared to the clouds. The beautiful damsels, the wives of the denizens of the heavenly planets, are compared to lightning. In summation, the airplanes with their passengers, which came from higher planets to Kailash, were very pleasant to look at. While traveling, the demigods passed over the forest known as Samgandika, which is full of varieties of flowers, fruits, and desire trees. While passing over the forest, they also saw the regions of Yaksheshwara. Purport. Yaksheshwara is also known as Kuvera, and he is the treasurer of the demigods. In the descriptions of him in Vedic literature, it is stated that he is fabulously rich. It appears from these verses that Kailasha is situated near the residential quarters of Kuvera. It is also stated here that the forest was full of desire trees. In Brahma Samhita, we learn about the desire tree which is found in the spiritual world, especially in Krishnaloka, the abode of Lord Krishna. We learn here that such desire trees are also found in Kailash, the residence of Lord Shiva, by the grace of Krishna. It thus appears that Kailasha has a special significance. It is almost like the residence of Lord Krishna. Next verse. In that celestial forest, there are many birds whose necks were colored reddish and whose sweet sounds mixed with the humming of the bees. The lakes were abundantly decorated with crying swans, as well as strong-stemmed lotus flowers. Purport. The beauty of the forest was intensified by the presence of various lakes. It is described herein that the lakes were decorated with lotus flowers and with swans who played and sang with the birds and the humming bees. Considering all these attributes, one can imagine how beautiful this spot was and how much the demigods passing through enjoyed the atmosphere. There are many paths and beautiful spots created by man on this planet Earth, but none of them can surpass those of Kailash as they are described in these verses. So we have many beautiful places here in Ireland, very much nature and many trees and lakes and cliffs and valleys, but as we hear here, none can surpass that of Kailash. And maybe there's a bit more more description, so we can hear what else is there. All these atmospheric influences unsettled the forest elephants, who flocked together in the sandalwood forest, and the blowing wind agitated the minds of the damsels there for further sexual enjoyment. Purport. Whenever there is a nice atmosphere in the material world, immediately there is an awakening of the sexual appetite in the minds of materialistic persons. This tendency is present everywhere within this material world, not only on this earth, but in higher planetary systems as well. In complete contrast with the influence of this atmosphere on the minds of the living entities within the material world is the description of the spiritual world. The women there are hundreds and thousands of times more beautiful than the women here in this material world, and the spiritual atmosphere is also many times better. Yet despite the pleasant atmosphere, the minds of the denizens do not become agitated because in the spiritual world, the Vaikuntha planets, the spiritual minds of the inhabitants are so much absorbed in the spiritual vibration of chanting the glories of the Lord that such enjoyment could not be surpassed by any other enjoyment, even sex, which is the culmination of all pleasure in the material world. In other words, in the Vaikuntha world, in spite of its better atmosphere and facilities, there is no impetus for sex life. As stated in Bhagavad Gita 2.59, Param Drishta Nivartate, the inhabitants of Vaikuntha are so spiritually enlightened that in the presence of such spirituality, sex life is significant. So I call it there's like a higher taste. Next text 31. They also saw that the bathing ghats and their staircases were made of Vaidurya money. The water was full of lotus flowers. Passing by such lakes, the demigods reached a place where there was a great banyan tree. That banyan tree was 800 miles high, and its branches spread over 600 miles around. The tree cast a fine shade which permanently cooled the temperature, yet there was no noise of birds. Purport: generally, in every tree there are bird nests, and the birds congregate in the evening and create noise. But it appears that this banyan tree was devoid of nests, and therefore it was calm, quiet, and peaceful. There were no disturbances from noise or heat, and therefore this place was just suitable for meditation. The demigods saw Lord Shiva sitting under that tree, which was competent to give perfection to mystic yogis and deliver all people. As grave as time eternal, he appeared to have given up all anger. Purport: in this verse, the word Maha Yogamaya is very significant. Yoga means meditation on the Supreme Personality of Godhead, and Maha Yoga means those who engage in devotional service of Vishnu. Meditation means remembering, smaranam. There are 9 different kinds of devotional service, of which smaranam is one process. The yogi remembers the form of Vishnu within his heart. Thus, there were many devotees engaged in meditation on Lord Vishnu under the big banyan tree. The Sanskrit word Maha is derived from the affix Mahat. This affix is used when there is a great number of or quantity, so Maha Yoga indicates that there were many great yogis and devotees meditating on the form of Lord Vishnu. Generally, such meditators are desirous of liberation from material bondage, and they are promoted to the spiritual world, to one of the Vaikunthas. Liberation means freedom from material bondage or nations. In the material world, we are suffering life after life because of our bodily identification, and liberation is freedom from that miserable condition of life. Lord Shiva sat there, surrounded by saintly persons like Kuvera, the master of the Guhyakas, and the 4 Kumaras who were already liberated souls. Lord Shiva was grave and saintly. Purport: the personalities sitting with Lord Shiva are significant because the 4 Kumaras were liberated from birth. It may be remembered that after their birth, these Kumaras were requested by their father to get married and beget children in order to increase the population of the newly created universe. But they refused, and at that time Lord Brahma was angry. In that angry mood, Rudra, Lord Shiva, was born. Thus they were intimately related. Kuvera, the treasurer of the demigods, is fabulously rich. Thus Lord Shiva's association with the Kumaras and Kuvera indicates that he has all transcendental and material opulences. Actually, he is the qualitative incarnation of the Supreme Lord. Therefore, his position is very exalted. The demigods saw Lord Shiva situated in his perfection as the master of the senses, knowledge, fruitive activities, and the path of achieving perfection. He was the friend of the entire world, and by virtue of his full affection for everyone, he was very auspicious. Purport: Lord Shiva is full of wisdom and tapasya, austerity. One who knows the modes of work is understood to be situated on the path of devotional service to the Supreme Personality of Godhead. One cannot serve the Supreme Personality of Godhead unless one has achieved full perfectional knowledge in the ways and means of performing devotional service. Lord Shiva is described here as Adishvara. Ishvara means controller, and Adishvara means particularly controller of the senses. Generally, our materially contaminated senses are apt to engage in sense gratificatory activities, but when a person is elevated by wisdom and austerity, the senses then become purified, and they become engaged in the service of the Supreme Personality of Godhead. Lord Shiva is the emblem of such perfection, and therefore in the scriptures it is said, Vaishnava Yatha Shambhu. Lord Shiva is a Vaishnava. Lord Shiva, by his actions within this material world, teaches all conditioned souls how to engage in devotional service 24 hours a day. Therefore, he is described here as Loka Mangala, good fortune, personified for all conditioned souls. So we have to mention here Shiva Sampradaya, the 4 Vaishnava Sampradayas, and one is coming from directly from Lord Shiva. Our Sampradaya, which we follow, are coming from Lord Brahma, and there are 2 others. Text 36. Translation. He was seated on the deer skin, that's Shiva, and was practicing all forms of austerity. Because his body was smeared with ashes, he looked like an evening cloud. On his hair was the sign of half moon, a symbolic representation. Purport. Lord Shiva's symptoms of austerity are not exactly those of a Vaishnava. Lord Shiva is certainly the number 1 Vaishnava, but he exhibits a feature for a particular class of men who cannot follow the Vaishnava principles. The Shaivites, the devotees of Lord Shiva, generally dress like Lord Shiva, and sometimes they indulge in smoking and taking intoxicants. Such practices are never accepted by the followers of Vaishnava rituals. He was seated on a straw mattress and speaking to all present, including the great sage Narada, to whom he specifically spoke about the absolute truth. Purport. The Lord was sitting on a mattress of straw, because such a sitting place is accepted by persons who are practicing austerity to gain understanding of the absolute truth. In this verse, it is specifically mentioned that he was speaking to the great sage Narada, a celebrated devotee. Narada was asking Lord Shiva about devotional service, and Shiva, being the topmost Vaishnava, was instructing him. In other words, Lord Shiva and Narada were discussing the knowledge of the Veda, but it is to be understood that the subject matter was devotional service. Another point in this connection is that Lord Shiva is the supreme instructor, and the great sage Narada is the supreme audience. Therefore, the supreme subject matter of Vedic knowledge is bhakti, or devotional service. Next text. His left leg was placed on his right thigh, and his left hand was placed on his left thigh. This sitting posture is called Virasana. In his right hand he held Rudraksha beads, and his finger was in a mode of argument. Purport. What's the finger mode of argument? Like that? Oh no. What's that mudra? Purport. The sitting posture described herein is called Virasana, according to the system of Ashtanga Yoga performances. In the performance of yoga, there are 8 divisions, such as yama and niyama, controlling, following the rules and regulations, then practicing the sitting postures, etc. Besides Virasana, there are other sitting postures such as Padmasana and Siddhasana. Practice of these asanas without elevating oneself to the position of realizing the Supersoul, Vishnu, is not the perfectional state of yoga. Lord Shiva is called Yogeshwara, the master of all yogis, and Krishna is called Yogeshwara. Yogeshwara indicates that no one can surpass the yoga practice of Lord Shiva, and Yogeshwara indicates that no one can surpass the yogi perfection of Krishna. Another significant word is Tarka Mudra. This indicates that the fingers are opened and the second finger is and the second finger is raised along with the arm. Like that? I don't know. I'm really curious now. And we're gonna find it out. So I'm just Tarka Mudra. I'm just seeing I can find it. Is that the one? No. Fingers are open and the second finger is raised. Aha. Open. Okay, I don't get it. Someone can post a link under these readings, if you know or if you find it. So next text. All the sages and demigods headed by Indra offered their respectful obeisances unto Lord Shiva with folded hands. Lord Shiva was dressed in saffron garments and absorbed in trance, thus appearing to be the foremost of all sages. Purport. In this verse the word Brahmananda is significant. This Brahmananda or Brahma Nirvana is explained by Prahlad Maharaj. When one is completely absorbed in the Adokshaja, the Supreme Personality of Godhead, who is beyond the sense perception of materialistic persons, one is situated in Brahmananda. It is impossible to conceive of the existence, name, form, quality, and pastimes of the Supreme Personality of Godhead, because he is transcendentally situated beyond the conception of materialistic persons. Because materialists cannot imagine or conceive of the Supreme Personality of Godhead, they may think that God is dead, but factually he is always existing in his Satchidananda Vigraha, his eternal form. Constant meditation concentrated on the form of the Lord is called samadhi, ecstasy or trance. Samadhi means particularly concentrated attention, so one who has achieved the qualification of always meditating on the Personality of Godhead is to be understood to be always in trance and enjoying Brahma Nirvana or Brahmananda. Lord Shiva exhibited those symptoms, and therefore it is stated that he was absorbed in Brahmananda. Another significant word is Yoga Kaksham. Yoga Kaksha is the sitting posture in which the left thigh is fixed under one's tightly knotted saffron-colored garment. I have no idea how that looks. Also the words Manunam Adyam Manunam Adyam are significant here because they mean a philosopher or one who is thoughtful and can think very nicely. Such a man is called Manu. Lord Shiva is described in this verse as the chief of all thinkers. Lord Shiva, of course, does not engage in useless mental speculation, but as stated in the previous verse, he is always thoughtful regarding how to deliver the demons from their fallen condition of life. It is said that during the advent of Lord Chaitanya, Sadashiva appeared as Advaita Prabhu, and Advaita Prabhu's chief concern was to elevate the fallen conditioned souls to the platform of devotional service to Lord Krishna. Since people were engaged in useless occupations which would continue in their material existence, Lord Shiva in the form of Lord Advaita appealed, and also later appeared. So Lord Shiva in the form of Lord Advaita appealed to the Supreme Lord to appear as Lord Chaitanya to deliver these illusioned souls. Actually, Lord Chaitanya appeared on the request of Lord Advaita. Similarly, Lord Shiva has a sampradaya, the Rudra Sampradaya. He is always thinking about the deliverance of the fallen souls as exhibited by Lord Advaita Prabhu. Let's see. Okay, we can read this one, and yes, let it be the last one. Text 40. Lord Shiva's lotus feet were worshipped by both the demigods and demons. But still, in spite of his exalted position, as soon as he saw that Lord Brahma was there among all the other demigods, he immediately stood up and offered him respect by bowing down and touching his lotus feet, just as Vamanadeva offered his respectful obeisances to Kashyapa Muni. Purport. Kashyapa Muni was in the category of the living entities, but he had a transcendental son, Vamanadeva, who was an incarnation of Vishnu. Thus, although Lord Vishnu is the supreme personality of Godhead, he offered his respects to Kashyapa Muni. Similarly, when Lord Krishna was a child, he used to offer his respectful obeisances to his mother and father, Nanda and Yashoda. Also, at the Battle of Kurukshetra, Lord Krishna touched the feet of Maharaj Yudhishthira because the king was his elder. It appears then that the personality of Godhead, Lord Shiva, and other devotees, in spite of their being situated in exalted positions, instructed by practical example how to offer obeisances to their superiors. Lord Shiva offered his respectful obeisances to Brahma because Brahma was his father, just as Kashyapa Muni was the father of Vamana. Okay, this darkness indicated that we are ending the reading. We're handing over to next live session, a live reading of the Lilamrita, or the history of Srila Prabhupada. So you can join the next reading if you have some time, if you're eager to hear some more. But for you want to continue reading Bhagavatam tomorrow at 6 o'clock, live here. So Hare Krishna, thank you very much. Hari Hari.